Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this conference organized by COHERENO, Collaboration for Housing Nearly Zero Energy Renovation. This project is funded by the EU. My name is Ad Straub. I'm the project manager employed by the Delft Technical University in the Netherlands. You already watched it maybe. A video is being made of this conference and it will be subtitled in the COHERENO languages, and that are Norwegian, Dutch, English, French and German. What we are doing today is not talking about the why issues, why reducing primary energy, what is the awareness of clients and what is the awareness of contractors. We focus especially on how to do it and what is the process, how to make a process that makes people living in houses happy with a new home, but actually a renovated home that uses much less energy, and not just happy with the project, not just happy with the product at the end, but also being happy with the process going to that product. So it's especially about the process, how a good business model helps that process, helps the process renovating that dwelling to nearly zero energy use. And who are we? COHERENO is, those are partners from the Netherlands, from Belgium, from Norwegian, from Germany, and from Austria. We did this project, is running this project for almost 3 years, and today we give our results about this project. We're still ongoing, but I think we have to say a lot. We can already show a lot of results, and I think those results are very important for the business of renovation, especially the single-family housing stock to low energy use. What are our objectives? Our objectives is to strengthen the collaboration between the enterprises from the supply side for the renovation of that dwelling stock. And we are doing that by eliminating barriers for collaboration, providing opportunities, promoting the uptake of new business models, and we are actually especially focusing on that today, and increasing customer confidence by quality assurance mechanisms. And we believe really that in that way we can make this market from sometimes just exemplary models, from prototypes into a volume market. We really believe in that volume market. And maybe you think a volume market, that's not the case, a volume market already. That's not, but it's an emerging market. We believe in an emerging market in this, for the single family NZEP renovations, because there is already a market, a big market for upgrading this. The market shows a stable growth rate, especially compared to the new building market. Public authorities promote the renovation market because they will see the new building market is dropping down, and we have to increase the renovation rate. We have to increase the renovation rate to keep on our targets for reducing our primary energy. And we are sure that consortia, they develop those building models for the NZEP renovation, that they will be able to take a position of front runners in this market. So they are the front runners and they will have a big share in this market. And that brings me to my next slide. Our primarily target group are contractors. Mostly they are involved as the important contact person between the client and the supply side. They are often the key responsible for the NZEP renovation, but sometimes though that position is taken by a consultant or maybe an informing actor. And we distinguish between contractors that have a contractual relationship with the clients for energy advice, especially maybe for quality assurance, but also for project management. And next to that, of course, there are informing and consulting, advising actors about energy, products, and finance. Of course, also important, and especially for the uptake of the volume market, to encourage that are banks, real estate agencies, energy agencies, and also policymakers, especially important for the uptake of the volume market, where we believe in. Going to the project results. We established an NZEP radar, and the next speaker will talk more about this. We established guidelines with opportunities for business collaboration, and those guidelines, of course, are also used within our business modeling, and we will talk more about this during this conference. Also, we established hands-on recommendations for quality assurance. Very important recommendations, how to be aware what quality is during the process for the product. Quality assurance directly linked to the customer confidence in the renovation process, and as well as in the renovation product. We make a listing of identified frontrunners in NZEP renovation, and because people want to have a list of recognized actors that can really do the job. We organized in all our countries, and we will talk about that later on, business collaboration events to encourage the collaboration between actors. And we initiated and developed business models, and that's especially the issue we are talking about today. And for that business models, the standard business model canvas was used as a reference. And we asked to the collaborative structures those questions, and those questions are answered today, and especially after the coffee break today. What was the main reason to step into the NZEP renovation? How did you find collaborative enterprises to develop together a business model? What is your business idea? And what are the value propositions? The value propositions for the client, for the homeowner. And what do you recommend other companies? And of course, you are here also to know that. What do you recommend for you? What are the recommendations for you to step into this market? But first, we will start today with what is NZEP, with defining the NZEP standard. And after that first presentation, we will hear more about the business collaboration events we organized and maybe could be organized in other countries too. And after that presentations, we will hear about opportunities for the uptake of new business collaboration. And after the coffee break, we will continue especially with the business modeling, and we will hear about practical with exemplary models, organized structures being done in the COHERENO countries, and we have some time for discussion. I think also we have, during this session, we have time for some questions after each presentation. What I already said, there's a video being made of this conference, so I want to ask if someone has a question waiting for a microphone, and to stand up and say his name, and talking with it, using the microphone. Hopefully you have an inspiring afternoon session, and I want to give the floor to Maarten to explain what is NZEP in our countries.
Hello, good afternoon. Explaining what is NZEB, it's quite a challenge. Personally, I'm involved in this project, well, from actually 3 different ways, which makes it interesting. First of all, from BPIE side, we are one of the consortium partners and proud to be part of the team. But as well, on 2 other different ways that are very interesting is, one, I made my roof, or somebody put a new roof at my house the last weeks. And believe it or not, but his name was Jimi Hendrix. It's really true. And he was repairing, or he was taking off my old roof, so I had a large hole, it started to rain. He said, yeah, tomorrow I can't come. I said, how come you can't come tomorrow? Well, I have to go to this kind of COHERENO working group sessions with contractors. So actually my roof contractor was one of the sessions, and he gave input for this project. And then the last one is before BPIE was working for the Flemish Ministry of Energy. And there we commissioned one of the project partners to define kind of business models for the demand side, for the supply side, and which made it interesting to implement it in policy making. And I think that's the final aim of this European projects, is to get it there where there is a continuation of the content being developed. So first of all, if we need to identify NZEB renovations and the key actors, so who are the contractors, who are the architects and so on, of course we need to know what target to aim at. So there are different targets, what do we need to go for? And that was a challenge of this project. What we can go and do, we can go and check European legislation, what's happening there. So there's this Holy Bible, the EPBD, Energy Performance of a Building Directive. There is a word, or the words, near zero energy building, and they give a very vague definition. I will not read it, you probably read it over 100 times already, but it actually says everything and nothing. So for those who are not aware of it, every member state has to define a known NZEB definition. So every country has to decide, for us, nearly zero energy means this. And of course it should be, as it's meant here, like nearly or very low amount of energy, and there should be some renewable energy part of it as well. So thank you. So from BPIE side, we launched in April, I think, a fact sheet on NZEB definitions. So we want to check in which countries are there NZEB definitions. And we came to 2 conclusions. First of all, there's a very large variation in NZEB definitions, going from very low kilowatt hours a square meter to very high. Also in variation of how it's being filled in, very detailed or very more largely. And we saw that more or less 16 member states for new buildings have an NZEB definition. You see that Belgium is, for example, like half filled in, because we have the difficult case of having 3 regions who have to make an NZEB definition for each of them, and 2 of them have, I think. I'm quite sure. And then you see as well that quite a lot of member states, the definition is ongoing or has to be improved. And then what for me is strange that, for example, Germany, as normally one of the front runners on level of energy performance buildings, does not have a definition yet. So that's quite a handicap if you want to develop policy making in your country. So in this fact sheet, we also checked if there are already member states who are having definitions for existing buildings, and it makes it interesting for the exercise or the project you are here for today. So there are 8 member states who have already a definition for existing buildings. And if you go and analyze a little bit further, you see that 4 of them, they make a difference between new buildings and existing buildings. And all the rest, they just copy-paste the same definition for new and existing buildings. I'm quite sure that all of you have the necessary competence, and you might realize that it might not be the best solution. You can wonder yourself, if you can think a building from zero, from scratch to the end, that it's more easy to get higher energy performance levels. So it might not be realistic to have same definition for new and existing buildings, because or your definition is not challenging enough for new buildings, or it might be too challenging for the existing buildings. Maybe my former colleagues of the Ministry of Energy of Flanders are here as well, and they are doing right now the exercise of setting up this kind of definition. And I can assure you, it's a very difficult and challenging exercise, because you have to have if you want to develop this definition, it has to be challenging. You have to have future looking, but at the same time, the construction sector, the main actors have to be involved and have to agree on this process as well. So for this project, they developed, well, I was not there yet, but so they developed the NZEP renovation radar. So they aim to identify example project and experienced actors. So what they did is they made this beautiful drawing, and it shows which different levels of energy performance you can have for different buildings. And then, of course, in the center point, you have the highest performance possible. You could say it's energy class A++, or it's the NZEP definition for 2020. The circle around, you could level it up and say it's additional aspects such as airtightness. You could go a circle further and say EPC excellent examples, energy class A. And you have as well already some countries that have NZEP definitions for 2015, like, for example, Brussels Capital Region. So you have all these different players, but I think the outer circle is maybe the most interesting one. And that's where you show, like, okay, maybe part of the renovation is doing extremely well. Like, for example, the roof I did. I still have some single glazing, which I have to change as well, but my roof is really done very nice, insulated, and so on. So this the contractors doing this, they know what they do as well. So we have 6 countries involved in this project. So for each of these countries, this radar was defined. So all of them will be different, and I will not go into detail on this. I think if there are questions later on specific country issues that the country partners can answer. But you see that sometimes there's more like cloudy shapes because it's not always clear what is the most challenging target. So based on this, we went to look for actors and example projects to analyze to build up the business projects. So I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about this because it's very clear that it's the main challenge that it's not so much about the new buildings are of course important, but the existing building stock is our main challenge, and it's very important that you're all aware of that, because if you go and watch the buildings that will be there in 2050, 75% of the buildings are there already nowadays. So we really need to focus on the existing building stock. On the other hand, it is not that the construction market is split in two. It's not that one part of the actors are renovating and the other ones are new buildings. So if you make strict requirements for new buildings and if you level up competences, of course, there is a direct input for the existing building stock and renovations as well. So here it goes again, the Holy Bible. But what is happening right now is that there is a review going on. That means that the Energy Performance of Building Directive, which exists right now, the Commission will probably or maybe revise it. So right now they launched a survey. It's running till the end of this month. And there they have 79 questions. What should be different in the current EPBD? And from BPIE side, that's for us really a window of opportunity to implement long-term targets or long-term NZEP targets or benchmarking for energy performance of existing buildings. So right now there is no obligation to set up these targets or this benchmark for the existing buildings. It's only, more or less, but it's only linked to new buildings for right now. So here I put NZEP between brackets because it's not clear if you need to call it NZEP or you can call it different. And is it a target or more a benchmark? That is open for discussion as well. Because in a conference this morning, I heard the words like, if you want to go too much to obligations and targets, member states will be reluctant to go into it. So maybe it's more interesting to have a kind of a benchmark. And I will tell some more about the possible benchmark. So from the supply side, well, the construction sector, it's this large container boat. Of course, they're very good front runners, and we will talk later on about this. But these container boats, they really need time to take the curve. And we want, if we put like long-term targets for the construction sector, they can prepare themselves, they can get the necessary training, they can get the necessary competences. But at the same time, on the demand side, so actually the consumers, well, they have the problem of choice. There's too much choice right now. Very concrete example from my own experience again. I didn't only do my inclinated roof, I also had a flat roof with some polyurethane insulation. And my father is doing the same. but we didn't know it from each other actually. And he called me and he said, I'm renovating my roof. I'm putting 12 centimeters of insulation. I said, you only put 12 centimeters. I'm putting 16. And I was like, why do you put 16? So it is consumers, if they want to insulate their roof or put double glazing or triple glazing, there's too much choice. They don't know what to do. So you have to give them some choice somewhere. And of course, if the supermarket is more empty and there's just the San Pellegrino to choose, they will choose it. So they really need guidance. So you need to work out a long-term target or a benchmark for existing building renovation. And once that, if you have this kind of long-term target for what should the existing buildings go to, then you can work out a whole lot of extra policy instruments. And this is an example from German region Baden-Württemberg. They are developing like individual building roadmaps. And I think we're all aware that on the renovation, it's mostly happened phased process-wise. I think more or less in Germany, 80% of the renovations are happening in different stages. So what happens if you do one thing and then after the other, then sometimes you create lock-in effects. For example, my roof, I let it come 30 centimeters further out of the wall, that in 1, 2, 3, 5 or 10 years, whatever, I can easily put my outside wall insulation without problems. But if you put your roof and you don't think about it, you have a lock-in effect. So to avoid this lock-in effect, you need this kind of individual renovation roadmap. So, but to have this individual renovation roadmap, you need a long-term target. So it's all this circle that we are coming to. So that was it, and I thank you for the attention.
Questions? Yes. Does anybody have a question maybe before the next presentation? Or we go directly to it?
Okay, then I thank you, Maarten. I give the floor to Hannes Warmuth from Ogut, who will tell more about business collaboration events.
Thank you, Ed. Hello and good afternoon from my side. My name is Hannes Warmuth. I'm working with the Austrian Society for Environment and Technology, located in Vienna. And now that we have heard about the definition of ANSYS renovation, which could be tricky, it's my turn to introduce maybe or to lead over to the business modeling and the method of business modeling. As mentioned before, this project is about eliminating barriers. And in eliminating barriers to stimulate the renovation market, it was my challenge to think about how to connect to frontrunners and encourage supply chain collaboration by introducing a new and maybe appropriate format for the relatively small group of innovative and experienced actors like frontrunners in ANSYS renovation, and by organizing business and implementing business collaboration events. The main objective was to counter the fragmentation of market players on the market by organizing BCEs. I would like to stick on this term because business collaboration events is quite a long term. They should be a potential starting point for a long-term business-to-business networking initiative. They should also encourage the collaboration along the supply chain from different types of actors. And at the end, the result should be they should pave the way for the uptake of new business models, focusing on the customer needs from a very user perspective side. So we organized 2 business collaboration events in each participating country, and we introduced. The main aim was to provide them participants an appetizer of the business modeling, which was done in follow-up workshops with potential collaboration initiatives who met at the events, or they took the idea of business modeling home and discussed this method with their colleagues. The challenge we had was how to attract this relatively small group of frontrunners. And in this case, we had to think of a suitable approach. And this was done by offering a half-day plus event. It was carried out in different ways and different methods in each country, but the main aim was to organize a half-day plus event in order to allow for short-term availability and especially to attract a higher number of participants from small and medium-sized enterprises. The registration was handled by organizing or by setting up a web-based networking platform where actors could already enter a profile stating their experiences in NSEP renovations, describing best practice renovation examples, and showing their motivation or their interest in finding new partners, also with the same mindset, trying to stimulate our work in the NSEP renovation market. Of course, this organizing events needs careful preparation and planning, and this was done by some documents and guidelines, especially directed at the moderators, moderating at the events, but also guidelines for the implementation of BCEs in other countries. So these guidelines are available on the website and can be used for interested organizations to use in other countries or as well as in your country. We also organized a webinar to train the moderators, which was necessary to perfectly brief the moderators. And at the end, we almost had 300 participants in all over the countries. And usually the agenda was doing pitch presentations on best practice renovation examples, pitch presentations on functioning collaborative structures already established in the countries. And as I mentioned before, the main objective of the events was to provide an appetizer of the business modeling, which will be explained in detail or more detailed afterwards by my colleague. So randomly chosen groups of different types of actors were set up on different tables, and they had to create their own business model from scratch. Of course, the introduction of the business modeling, consisting of 9 different blocks, took some time to explain, but in the course of the event, people got, even if they were randomly chosen, they could imagine if they would work together and build their own business model. And this was the main objective, to attract people to do the follow-up workshops where they had to create their own concrete business model. But we also did an evaluation of the business collaboration events, and we almost got from 300 participants 200 questionnaires back. And speaking about the channels who reached the target group, there were, with 41%, they answered that direct mails and the newsletters, and to a lesser extent, they were informed at filling fairs. What proved to be less efficient were flyers and the matchmaking website. So that the question can be asked if this medium is maybe for this very specialized and group or target group. Isn't it target oriented? Does it need improvement of the matchmaking website, because the entering the profile was done in English because of the software. They had some limitations, and this proved to be a great entry barrier for people entering a profile. And if we look at the flyers, which are a mass medium to get attraction, this was maybe also so direct contacts, direct mails to person was proved to be the most efficient way to attract people. And of course, the scope of such a matchmaking platform is in organizing and dealing bilateral meetings at the events. And it's rather than being a networking platform where people can find each other professions also working in the NSEP renovation market. but this could be improved, and we got some very valuable information out of this the feedback. Also, we organized we had co-organizers for different business collaboration events, and they proved out to be very useful in attracting the target group of innovative actors. Like in Austria, we had a collaboration with a bank, a housing bank, and as well as in Norway, I think, and they had a pretty good overview of the market, and they got to the actors. The people participating at the events were mostly energy advisors and architects in Germany, like in Germany and Austria. In Belgium, there were more contractors, and it's interesting that also financial actors were. There were a lot of financial actors at the collaboration events, which also is linked to even they were presenters or they were hosts rather than participants who registered. But they gave a new insight in collaborative structures, because people like from the diagnosis and planning to executing actors, they got a new insight from the financial advisors. From the participants' perspective, the presentations could have been shorter. The method was very much appreciated and a good starting point. However, the business model canvas was not easy to think beyond. It took a long time to introduce the 9 building blocks and to get used to work with it. And the model was found by actors as for new companies or startups, rather than having an own business model, which is established since 4 years, and people have a lot of work experience with it. It was the challenge to get a new perspective on the business. We also did different ways in renovation examples. Maybe there were pitch presentations of highly innovative renovations, or the first block of the business model canvas was already filled out by customer needs, or there was no example at all at some business collaboration events. The time was okay, even if and the duration was okay, even if it was organized as a half-day plus event or at a full day. So there was no difference if they organized to be there. It doesn't matter if they're here for half a day or for the full day. And the matchmaking website, the organization of the registration process should be improved, and this was the message we got. Looking at the moderator's perspective, they were mostly satisfied with the time and duration, but it could be shortened, this was mentioned, and the method of business modeling was difficult to explain. Like in Germany, we engaged external advisors, consultants, who did the business modeling, because as we are in the consortium, as universities, consultants, and platforms, the consultants, they are used to work with business modeling. It's like their daily every day. And for us as a intermediary, it was even difficult maybe to get the idea and to work in a very time-efficient way to get through the 9 building blocks. They're asked by their experience in answered renovation. 56% of all respondents did have some experiences in answered renovation. So the target-oriented communication and dissemination of the event proved out to be very successful. Like in Norway, almost 85% had experiences in answered renovation, and the target-oriented way to disseminate the events were very good. And also in Germany, nearly the half were already experienced, and this shows that the relatively small group of frontrunners was attracted by the events. So looking at the potential or asked by the potential collaboration partners, people stated, of course, like we said, there were a lot of financial advisors, and afterwards they said, yeah, we want to collaborate with or want to get to clients via intermediaries like real estate agencies or financial advisors. It was seen that manufacturer of building materials, they do not give them their independency. Maybe this is from a very planning and diagnosis from very many architects. They work independently and they are not fixed to one manufacturer. They want to have the full choice of the available products. Policy actors haven't been seen, of course, as part of the business model, although they want to the conditions and the subsidies were addressed at the events, and the clear direction was that there should be more focus on the renovation market than on the new buildings. Interestingly, there were the willingness to cooperate or to collaborate with quality assessment actors was quite low. So maybe this is in case of a single-family home renovation, this is expected too expensive, and this is rather used in multifamily or bigger projects than in a single-family home renovation. Asked about their potential interest in doing the follow-up workshops. Almost 4 out of 5 persons were interested in doing them, and this level was the same in all countries. And so this leads me to my conclusions and to my lessons learned, that a careful preparation and organization is required, especially the business model canvas training, which should be done by specialized and people. It should be a clear communication of the aim of the scope of the business collaboration events, to lower the entry barriers for creating a profile. The matchmaking website should be improved, and a more target-oriented advertising is needed in order to attract the main target group of frontrunners. Although even if this group may be small in a specific country. It was mentioned that there should be provided more time for allowing for bilateral meetings. As we said, we chose the groups randomly, and there were from 6 to 8 people at each group, and it was mentioned that there was not enough time left to do bilateral networking between actors, although the matchmaking website allows this there. And the method of business model canvas, which will be explained afterwards, was very appreciated. It helped actors to structure their ideas in 9 easy and understandable building blocks, and to develop concrete business ideas, although it was as a warm-up, as an appetizer for the follow-up workshops. Thanks.
Thank you, Hannes. Are there any questions for Hannes about this?
Anyway, maybe afterwards we can sit
Yeah.
all the presenters from the first session, and we can take all the...
Okay, then we will continue. Our next speaker is Frank Eekhout. He is from Ecotif. He's the creator of the Ecotif concept, and Ecotif develops tailor-made solutions. The floor is to Frank.
Okay, thank you. I see I'm the first one who's from a private company, so I will explain a little bit how Ecotif existed. We are coming out from an energy supply company from solar panels. We were specialized in integrated solar solutions, but that was a rather fluctual system on the markets, and from there on we were thinking how we can get more established on the market with our ideas and with CO2-free energy. So from that point, we were thinking what we are going to do with the energy we produce from the solar cells or from wind or whatever, to get as far as possible CO2 free in the houses, in the industry and the mobility and whatever. So we created several platforms for that to get as far as possible. And because of this point of rethinking the whole idea of energy, we get to a new business concept. What we are now doing is managing. So now we are going to new house buildings, industry, renovation, mobility, whatever, with this idea focus of energy, CO2-free energy supply, and all materials that, let's say, use as less energy as possible to get as far as possible. And with this concept, we went to several companies, and we are maybe, let's say we are some kind of cooperation company who's working together with several companies in Belgium, but also in Portugal and Croatia and whatever, because we are cooperate ideas and techniques together with several companies. In this basic idea, it's very important because some companies are working separately from each other, and sometimes you can combine two techniques together. You just have to define a little bit here and a little bit there, and it makes better results on the field. So that is what we are doing. In combination, of course, always with energy reduced systems like insulation, heat reduction, heat recuperation and everything. So to go as less as possible. That's always the goal. The basic, of course, is the cooperation between companies. But afterwards, when we are getting new products or combined new products with several companies in Europe, we also go to the market, and on the market we also cooperate with local installers and whatever. We educate them by the companies we are working together with. So we make, in fact, a whole circle around to, let's say, install as much possible quality to the consumer, CO2 free. So he has a very nice product at the end, but also he has a very low energy invoice also at the end. And that is what we are trying to do. Like now Tuesday I was in Zagreb also for a project. We are now rebuilding for the architect a complete new concept because he was first working like the old system. We were there with 3 Belgian companies presenting ventilation because some countries in the south do not have the experience over there. So we go over there also to educate what we have learned here or what we know about that. In this case, we built or rethink these concepts or these buildings to a CO2-free level. And that's what we are trying to do. The contractors from there who will install in Croatia will come to Belgium. We educate them here in Belgium to install over there. So we always work together in cooperation with all the installers and producers. We also do it for renovation houses. So if we have projects on renovation, we just do the same. We are managing the whole system. We are looking what's necessary. We are looking to the budget. And from the budget, we are looking how far we can get for as low, let's say, that they save the most financially and CO2 for the client. So that has to be, let's say, a target. And from that managing point, we are looking who can be involved first with the supply of the materials. Next, who can be involved with the supply of the installation. So that is always a combination. So we are managing between producers and installers. And that's our vision. So let's say for renovation, we are thinking to mostly to have, let's say, showcases because we want to show what we want to do, or what we will do, because we want to have an eye catcher. People have to like renovation after the bad. So you see maybe some kind of houses from the years of 60, 70s, who is very high energy consuming. If we do this with these companies, what we are now working with, and we renovate this to an almost zero level system, and it has a catchy eye, and everyone is looking to it, and it looks like a new building. So the other one will also have, let's say, a little bit the feelings to also go to renovation, because the neighbor does it and it looks good. It's not only new windows, it's a full concept system. And that is mostly what we are trying to do. So we try to get the people, the consumer, get interesting in renovation and to get the invoice as low as possible, so we can show also that renovation is, let's say, financially a good thing to do. And that's the whole concept, what we are doing about managing between the producer and the end consumer. Our target in between, and first we were just installer for solar installations and solar supply systems. Now we are a big seller service store. So we have our own installers who are working under our label with our systems. And it's some kind of, but every case is, of course, we have to rethink every case because you have different volumes, different sizes and everything. So we have to, every time to check what's possible, but always with the same suppliers. We have almost 8 suppliers of products where we can work together and from one to the other, and we are sitting together on the table. We discuss this and we check how is the best to do it. If there's sometimes a heating pump that's too high in power and we need a lower, we install a lower one in the system. So we change sometimes also some standard products. I think it's necessary to get as the best results at the end. That is what we are doing. And because we are a big seller store with service, in this case we get the installers also around us who wants a little bit our label. Our new label is not Ecotiv, but Entry. And Entry is now a label that installers can put also on their van, that they are CO2 free, lower energy installing systems. So, and they are also a little bit proud of it. So, and we also make the banners for them with our label, with their name on it, so we promote them also. And in this case, we get some kind of feeling that they want to be in the group. And that is nice. We are not working next to each other, but that sometimes was a problem before, because sometimes some people did an implementation in a house, and the next one came and said, oh shit, what has he done now? That was not necessary. Oh, that's all lost of money. So we try to managing the whole system. And for us, it's very simple, because we are a big seller store. We have our profit on the products we are putting on the market. We do not have to charge the people for our coming in between. So it's not cost them also more. They pay whatever. So our position now is very, let's say, stable. It took us a while to get there, because to convince all these players on the market that we do, that we are, let's say, a CO2-free installer of systems, and to get on this level where other houses were already all over Belgium and wherever, and we have to be in competition with them, because they normally are the big seller stores. We were not. They need to invent a new label for us. But okay, we are a big seller store on CO2-free installations. So in this target of the market, we are playing. And this is about mobility, about renovation or new houses, concept apartments. We can do apartments, we do hotels. We can do, at this moment, we can do almost anything. Because all the players around us can supply us with all the techniques what we need. And we have some kind of circle now where we can work with. And that's basically, let's say, Ecotiv now for the moment. It took a while to get there, but okay, after 4 or 5 years, we are ready on the market, and the questions are coming now from Croatia. We are working now in Belgium and the Netherlands, and also we are, let's say, position ourselves now in Portugal and Spain. So step by step, we are getting, let's say, more sexy on the market, and that's what we are trying to do, because we want to have CO2-free installations and renovation, whatever. It has to be something you want to have, and that's what we want to do. Thank you for your attention.
Does anyone have questions for Frank?
Maybe I would ask Martin, Frank, Anes and you to sit. And if people have questions, I will come with microphones and they can answer. Does anyone want to go?
Yes, I already was given the microphone. Sorry. I'm Oliver Rapp from BPIE. I have a question for Frank. Frank, so you have established a new label, which is supposed to attract new clients. How do you manage the quality assurance process? Or what do you do if you have customers which are not so happy? What kind of safeguards have you implemented, and how do you make sure that you have a label on the market which has really a good reputation?
Because all the players we are working with are, let's say, very good companies now. They are Yes? Okay, that's better. No, the suppliers we are working with give the warranty, of course, of the products they have. That's one thing. All the players we are working with are very high standard quality players. One is Dena is Yaga. They are known now for the most lowest energy ventiloconvector on the market in the world. So we are playing with Duco. So the whole system is, of course, insured by the suppliers of our products. That's one thing. The warranty is coming from there. And before we are putting them on the, let's say, in the houses or in the apartments or in the hotels, all the engineers of the company are sitting together to check all the figures and everything to see if everything is okay. So I do not have, let's say, for the moment, a problem with any kind of not pleased person. Mm.
I am Sintef Plastics Europe. Just to rebound on your question, Oliver, what about how do you ensure the quality of the installation work? Because you mentioned you have a network of installers.
Yes.
How do you
They have all the education from the installers companies, from the producers themselves. So everyone has a label that he has, let's say, the quality to install the installation. So they get the education at every company they are working with, and they get the label over there.
Hello, my name is Olivier de Rijker, City of Ghent. I have a question for Maarten. Maarten, when we talk to financial people, bankers and so on, trying to get financing for renovation projects, collective renovation and so on, one of the things they always say is, yes, but the legal framework is unsure, is changing the whole time, so you cannot rely on that. And uncertainty and bankers is not the best combination, of course. So when you were talking about should we go for the standards, a fixed standard or a benchmark, is that not, well, a difficult question, in fact, because financing people, they just want to have legal certainty, firm definitions, and then they will be more happy or less reluctant to finance renovation projects. Is that clear? Yeah.
Well, I think what you say makes a lot of sense, and I used to have as well conversation with bankers from larger banker companies with the request for them to give advantage loans to new NZAP buildings. Because actually, if you take it from a purely investment perspective, an NZAP building, first of all, the user, he has lower energy bills, so he has more availability to pay back his loan. Second of all, the house or the building is future-proof. So, and actually, what was the result is that actually the future-proofed building, or the fact that the investment value is more secured in the future. That made the most sense for them. But they requested all one thing, is that they said, we don't know anything of energy performance and so on, so we just want to have one official document which states that this is according a certain energy level. And indeed, as long as there is no benchmark or no official target, it can be made official by the government. I think that would be the most optimal. It can be made official by other organizations, like for example, Passive House would be another label. But I think what my experience with the bankers was that for them a governmental paper was, or document, that it was proof that was the most worth it. And then of course they don't want lots of complications, but energy performance of building is making it not complicated. That's the challenge. So your question is good. So we need very clear benchmark. It has to be supported by the government, and then if the bankers could refer, for example, to subsidies being paid on that. But then, of course, from the moment that you have that, there is much more a risk of the lower quality of, for example, an EPC. For example, if you have subsidy, or if bankers give more advantage loans based on your EPC, then of course there will become pressure on the quality, or cheating on the EPC. So there has to be guaranteed quality of the EPC as well. So it's not that easy, but I think there are good solutions all over Europe. Not all over Europe, but in Europe there are some good solutions to that.
Hi, the question's for Hannes. It's Fiona Tutty from Duneworks in the Netherlands. I'm just working on an international energy agency project, and we're using the same methodology, the business model canvas, looking at new business models for energy services. So I suppose the question, you talked about the challenges in working with the business model canvas. Are there any examples anonymously available from the work that you've done? Are they available, and could you give a bit more detail about the challenges and how you got over them?
Thank you for this question. I will not, I've mentioned that there will be some business models explained afterwards, after the break, but we did create business models at the events as well, and which are available in a documentation report available on the website. But the concrete business models, which are worked out now, or have been worked out in different countries as well already, they will be published according to the acceptance of the business group, of the collaboration group, because of course there are you can't. We have to ask permission to publish the business models. But as far as I know, that there are many companies or collaboration structures, they agreed to publish also the concrete business models.
Hi, I'm Sarah van Dijk from BBL Flanders here in Belgium. I have a question for Maarten concerning the NZEB definition for the existing buildings. You said there is a big difference between all these definitions, and you also mentioned that there should be kind of a target in the EU legislation for the existing buildings. The definition for the new buildings is very vague. So I wonder what exactly would your recommendations be for the existing buildings? As you know, it's a difficult discussion.
It's a $1 million question.
Thank you.
Well, no, I think here in this project, the NZ radars that you see, I think that's the first exercise. And the exercise what I saw happening in Belgium, where you were part of it as well, I think the first exercise that you should do is developing a fork range where somewhere you will put the target. And I think that's the first step to get to this benchmark. And I think to have this range, the NZ radars that were developed, I think that's the first good step. And the second step, I think it depends also on political level, what is on national level, what's going on. I think, well, maybe a good example, when there was the NZ definition for new buildings, there was a large discussion, will we go on, will it be more on heat demand, or will it be more strict on the overall energy performance, or and so on. So the final definition for new buildings in Flanders is quite challenging, but it maybe misses some topics on the heat demand itself. There, the definition is quite high, but it's a result of political result and discussion. So I think start with the NZEP radars, and then from there it's up to national levels to go high, and then it's up to organizations like yours and to make sure it's challenging enough, but at the same time feasible.
Good afternoon. My name is Hebabo. I work for LGI Consulting based in Paris, France. My question is for Ed. It's regarding the business model workshops organization. We also do this kind of job. My question is again about the main challenges, if you can share what were the main challenges of organizing this type of workshop. And when you did say that you separate the people in different teams, did you choose the type of stakeholder, and did they have specific objectives for constructing this business model, or it was an open workshop? Thanks.
It was the groups were set up by different types of actors, like architects, energy advisors, as well as financial actors. They were different, and the challenge to create the business, they discussed what are the needs, the customer needs, and what is the aim we are looking, or what is the value proposition we are offering at the market. So in the process of the business modeling at the events, they discussed this at the event, and it took quite a long time to get one opinion or one aim within the group. So it was quite challenging. And the challenging in organizing the business collaboration events is getting the right people to attend the events. We saw that the acceptance and the willingness to do the follow-up workshops was quite high. And this means that the people who were attending the events, they were looking for new business models, and they were looking for different actors at the events, or they were looking for a new idea to how to create the business model, and then going home and discussing it with other people who had no time at this, because we had our events in September, and this is quite where they are busy. So you also have to find a date and where they have time.
Yeah, maybe I want to say something actually to Sarah's question as well on the bank. Sometimes it works here, it takes some time to... No, I think it's, if we go and put benchmarks or targets, we don't always have to make the mistake of only looking to the cost optimal level on this moment. Because if we are making a benchmark for renovation, what we see in Germany, that time that large renovations are being redone is moving from 55 years even to 70 years. So we have to take into account, if we make benchmarks for really deep energy retrofit, that we have to take into account, we are thinking for the building stock of 2050. So if we only think of benchmarks or targets that are economical feasible already now, it is not challenging enough. So we have to take that into account. Second, not all measures are purely economic as well, and that's something from BPIE side we are trying more and more to demonstrate, is that the co-benefits of comfort, of more healthy, of having better performance in the building is extremely relevant, and to put a price on it is difficult. So let's not put the benchmark too low neither. And maybe adding something for the first question, it comes from further away. Well, you said that banks, they ask information. That I find already quite a lot, because when I went for the house I bought, I got asked if I smoked and what age I had and my salary, but never what was the energy performance of my building. I think so. The first target is to get a bank or the investment world interested in the energy performance of the building. So, thank you.
A question for Frank. This conference is about collaboration, and are you enlarging this collaboration you established also to, especially to offer integrated solutions for anyone?
The level we are now on, but we started already with solar integrated systems in Croatia, Spain, and Portugal, and everywhere. So that's why our network is so big. That's one thing. The level we are now on, with a new vision to the market, is not so long started now. So we are busy now for 6 months with this new concept. And there are more and more people who want to be dealing in it. So installers, and we will stay looking to the market, also to the developers of the energy supplying systems. What is passing in our concept? So on both levels, firstly on the under level, that on the installers, we still can grow a lot. And on the upper level of the products, we have now, let's say, a combination of products we can work very easily with. If there is coming some new supplier with some new techniques, okay, and it passes in our idea, we are happy to take it also with us. So from wherever it comes.
Then you're looking for contractual relationships, or it's more buying supply relationship?
It's no. It's some kind. Let's say they get our label. That's one thing. So we have already very good contacts with these guys. So we know what they're doing. We know how they install the systems. We just not take everyone with our label. That's for sure. We need to know how they are working, how they are finishing the project, because we want to have good quality people, of course, always. It's not that we are taking everyone in the concept. But at the end, everyone gets the education, and we do the quality control everywhere, every time. So it has to be finished good, because they are, let's say, responsible for the installation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
My name is Stefan van de Straten from Daikin Europe. I was wondering if the COHERENO project was also promoting the horizontal EBBD standards, which are under discussion now, and where you have some parts on NZEP. Because this is an opportunity to convince the member states to uniform their definitions and their approach on NZEP.
Now the COHERENO project promotes integrated renovation of single-family dwellings, and especially we used what Maarten was showing you about the NZEP definition and how those NZEP definitions stepwise are being reached. Actually, we are using that NZEP radar to focus on those projects, demonstration projects, but we want to make it to a volume market, and we identified the actors being involved in those projects being in the middle of the radar. So we're not really in that way maybe stimulating or focusing on really on high standards, but we try to make the market ready for renovation to high standards.
Yeah, maybe something to add. I think if you go and watch the construction sector, the on-site workforce it's mainly small, medium enterprises, 70 to 80%. So they're mostly working on national level. So for them to go abroad, it's not that often. And if they're bigger, to go abroad or creative like you, I think they just need where they can get the correct information. I think that's not a main barrier for a company to build. I think it's more for the manufacturer markets, maybe from your side, that it's more complicated. That, for example, in one calculation you have a better performance than in another calculation. So for the on-site workforce, who we were working with, that's a smaller problem. It's morely for the manufacturers.